who's all gonna come online here. Let's see here. Green screen. I don't know if I could do that. Add photos. At least 1 minute. All right. Let's see. I can retouch. All right. I'm trying to see if I add some photos. All right. Okay, welcome back. Um, we're doing this shot here from the confinements of the uh, the studio that is still being built. Um, and There's a lot that I cannot reveal. Anyways, I'm just going to go into this love and worship podcast. I don't think we might have a bunch of you on because usually I post this up early and let you guys know what time it's going to be on, and I do a little shout out. But this day it's a little different. I just dropped a new book. It's on Apple Books right now. You can check it out. It's called Don't Look Back Ever. Like, don't look back ever, ever. Don't do it. And a lot of people probably think it's just about, the whole Lot's wife looking back when, they were rescued from, Sodom and Gomorrah by the angels of the Lord and the Lord himself. We always assume that when the gates were closed and that was a sign of saying, well, now the gates are closed and you can't get back in. So if you can't get back in and nobody can get out, that means that something serious is going to take place. um the harsh example of Sodom and Gomorrah was so real. It just shows a society ending, the crumblings of a society, the destruction of a society. In this version, it shows God's destroying the society itself. But when you look at other societies that have crumbled, and even though they've been around for a long time, just their domination in the world eventually crumbled. And I'm just looking at everything that's going on with how I lived my life, and then the decisions that I made to just keep on moving forward. And I'm very excited. Hey, what's up, Junior? Welcome. Hello, welcome. Come on in. Come on in. Invite your friends. Tell them to come on in. I'm going to talk about love and worship episode. This episode, I want to say this is episode 13. We should be 13 weeks in now. Hello, Tiffany. Hey, Nasser. Thank you. Oh, welcome, welcome, welcome. Um, I guess you say that like Nasser. That'd be cool. What's up? What's up, Marco? Come on, come on in, come on in, come on in. I'm telling you, just let all your friends know. I'm just gonna do a little talk here. One of the things I'm excited about is I have a I have a big album that I've been working on. I'm excited about it. Hey, welcome. I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Um, I I'm a real person for sure. Yeah. How are you guys doing? How is it going for you guys? I'll get into what I'm going to talk about, but I just want to know what's going on, what's happening. I'm here. I'm from the Bahamas. I'm here. I'm here in the studio space. That's going to be the future studio space, I would say, or right beneath it would be probably the future studio space. But I'm working on that. But I can't reveal any more than that. But I have an album that's called. It's going to be called My Name Kingsley Kase, but it's Love and Worship. So hopefully you guys would be interested in that. But I wanted to come on here to talk about my podcast. As usual, I always present something that's new. In the book that I have released is Love and Worship, but it's called It's really still framed to love and worship, but it's called Don't Look Back Ever. So the book is called Don't Look Back Ever, and you can get it at Apple bookstores. You don't have to pay anything. Actually, all of my books, I would say all 10 of the books are, well, 11 books are up on there now. So yeah, so you can get all 11 books there. Um, yeah, I would think so. Well, no, one of them you can get on Amazon, but the rest of them you can get there. So you guys tell me what's going on. You're up. Well, that was quick. I think a bunch of people came on, and I don't know who's still here or who's left. Can't tell right now. Let me know what's going on. How you guys feeling this afternoon? Going into evening time is going in before lunch. Came on quite fast here, and then everyone just left. Let me know how you're doing. Welcome, welcome. So I think somebody asked me if I'm a homosexual. I think they were trying to say that, ask me whether I'm a homosexual. I don't know why they would ask me that question. I do. I'm a man of faith, and I believe in Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. And I do believe that the Bible to be what it says it is. And I am a Christian. I'm a believer. I call myself mostly a disciple, just for the fact that I stand in knowing that the principles of the Bible I stand on. That person asked a question and they just disappeared, so it's kind of unusual. I don't know what that was about, but anyways, I usually try to ignore those questions, just because. It's those questions are not necessarily asking a person, "How was your day? How are you doing?" I'm glad that you're a human and you're in this world, and appreciate the fact that you're taking time out of your schedule to record this and be here with us. But everyone who came on, I just want to say shout outs to you. Thank you. You can watch it later. You can come back on and check it out later. I know you guys just sped through and drop some hellos and highs and stuff like that. It was good to see you all. Those ones who dropped us some highs. If you're still watching and I just can't see that you're on, that's okay too. That's okay as well. But I want to get into this. All right, so my new book, Don't Look Back, it's out on Apple bookstores. You can get it now. I have the other 9 books are on there as well. My one of my first published books, it's on Amazon. So, which is The Reason for Your Love. You can look it up by typing in Kingsley K. Charles Case, and my books would pop up. So, or you could just type in Kingsley Charles Case, and all of the books that are on Apple bookstores will pop up for you. So it's a good read. I took some time in writing that book. I mean, I was just talking about a lot of stuff that's going on, and now you guys know that I'm in the Bahamas. You know, I'm from here, and I do music. I'm an artist. I love music. I also love to talk to. So it is a good time to be on and to try to present something. One of the things that I think people kind of really um, purposely expect is when they come online, the first thing they want to see is something that's like hype, that's this gorgeous view or something like that. A lot of those things for me probably will come later on. My main focus right now is to present something that's going to be impactful to I guess my community, and whoever is out there that needs to know what's happening here and wanting to be connected. So my focus is really mostly on just presenting, myself and as a living light or an example, so that people will choose for themselves which way do they want to go. And so I'm not the what they some people classify as the expert of living right, not the expert of living holy. I'm a person first, and I'm trying to take the steps that I need to take in order to live right, and in order to live holy, and to live presentable. Um, cool thing that happened with writing this book. It was It was just that, there's a lot of choices that you have to make. Um, well, not going back to what you used to be. And I think a lot of people kind of get it mixed up at times because we have so many things that are sold to us, like things that are sold to us that gives us the impression as if like we've lived, or we've exited a barrier when we haven't even truly exited a barrier. We only touched the barrier. We only touched the surface of what it means to live holy, but in all retrospect, we're still pretending. We're still wearing this falsehood where we don't truly want to do what's right because everything that attracts us to right we look at is either boring, it's it's not popular, it's not trending, it's not scrollable, and it's you must be lost your mind, or you're poor, or something is wrong with you, that if you think that's the way to go. And that's kind of been some of the interpretations of that. Or if you have a view or political view that's not the same as mine, something must be wrong with you. You're irrational or something like that. And I'm like, why do you have to be irrational to have a different political view, but yet you can be rational and doing something that's unnatural, living a lifestyle that's unnatural. So it's a lot of mix up stuff that's out there, where it's just pretentious world, and these systems, they pull you into believing that this is how life ought to be and this is what life is going to be, and put a lot of dollar value in it. They put a lot of money into it. They try to back it up as much as they possibly can. um Hi. Welcome. Come on in. They put a lot of dollar value into as much as they possibly can, but most of the exaggeration, I would say, on that pretentious life is projected towards, targeting a, a group of people that have different beliefs. And then that group of people that have different beliefs, they're alienated, or they're targeted. Their homes are ransacked, or their homes are set on fire, or something like that. Something with, like, obscene crimes are being done against people now of different beliefs. I mean, you have different views, or whatever the case may be. So much stuff. Free speech, of whatever free speech was at one point, is no longer really freedom. You go into the UK and talk about your freedom. Maybe this video would probably not be allowed to be shared. No, persons might not be able to view it, or something like that. Something weird. No, I'm not. I'm not a homosexual. I'm a Christian. I'm a believer of Jesus Christ. I do not stand by any lifestyle that is unnatural for the human body. So if you're gonna come on here and ask me that question again and again and again, I'm just gonna see you as a spam account. Okay. So if you're not a spam account, ask me something about the Bahamas, about my music, or something like that. But don't ask me just odd questions, because I'm just gonna think you're a spam account, some computer genetic AI or something like that, that's trying to come on here and spam me. But I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm here to share the love of Jesus Christ with you, and to be an example. And if you don't want to hear that, then you're gonna leave. So you just did. So let's see which other genetic AI accounts are gonna come up and pop up on this side while I'm talking. But anyways, back to the book. This is why I love doing live. You got to do it live, because if you don't do it live, you're never going to meet the people who you're going to need to connect to, and they're not going to see what true believers predominantly face. And then people who have different lifestyles also face some harsher thing. And I think the reality is that we're living in a society where being online and across the other side of verse or world somewhere, makes people feel as if they have a right to, become so bullish and say things that are just uncharacteristics, and but they can do all this stuff online, but they won't walk up to you in your face and do that. They won't walk up to you in your face and do that. They will never approach you and do that. You know, some of them would try to, but they won't. The truth is they just won't. A lot of people are very nefarious for making a lot of hate content online and protesting with a lot of hate and devastation and talking about all this stuff. But at the end of the day, these are not true believers, because the true believers will stand by their word, whether they're in their physical presence or not. But these persons will switch up their talks, and then they have to get in crowds like hundreds or thousands, so that they can act violence against their neighbors. And one of the things the Bible talks about is loving your neighbor as you love yourself, and there's a reason for that. Like, we're all one people. Why would you hate on yourself? The way you treat somebody else is the same way that you would treat yourself, your approach to yourself. And so a lot of people who continuously live in this falsehood, and they keep on continuously living in these falsehoods, and they try to be very like perpetrators of a reality that try to offset your focus, to get you to get angry, to get you to get just they just whatever they can do. Like, I wouldn't, like, for instance, I'm on here live, and there's probably a 50 to 60% chance that there'll be a maybe 70% of these accounts will be spam accounts that will come on, zap on the live stream to become popular or whatever the case may be, and say very unlikable things that cause another audience that would be willingly wants to willingly watch, disappear. And then there'll be people who come on that, watch it, and because I'm brown skin, chocolate, they just zap away because they're looking for more things that are more like to what they want to like to see. Or I'm getting over my sinus stuff, so I'm a little stuffy here. Or the fact that I'm wearing this Bahamas shirt or something like that, and they see the wood frame in the back. They're just thinking like, no, oh no, I'm not watching this. I'm not looking at paradise or whatever the case may be. But the people who stick around and listen to the message that I'm bringing, those are the ones who benefit from it. And there's the ones that you got to be very serious about, and you got to care about why you're here and why you're doing this. So if you're going to do a live stream, always be focused on what you're here for, and try to get that done right in the beginning of your purpose. And this is a love and worship podcast. I'm doing them more live now instead of just doing these on. I usually would record these live, and then I'll post it. And I decided that no, it's time for me to just start posting these up live. And I think it's probably best for persons to see what it's like when I'm actually in a room and I'm recording these, because they think I'm spending like numerous a whole lot of time just editing and stuff like that. And actually, to tell you the truth, 90% of the times I'm not editing these at all. I record them. What you get is what you see. What you hear is what you see. That is me. The only thing I might do is just try to either expand the vocals or something like that. But most of the time, it's just originally what you're gonna get. But I really would say check out the book. Check out "Don't Look Back Ever." This new book by Kingsley K. Charles Case. That's me. Check it out. It's good. It's on Apple bookstores. You can download it right now. It's a free book to download to read. And if you like it, pass it on to someone else. It's a great book to read. And I thought it was a great book to read. And the next thing I'm talking about now is like now, we just recently, well, we knew it was coming with the tariffs. We knew these tariffs were coming. And I know you guys, some of you are probably like, well, I don't want to hear about tariffs. I don't want to hear about this. What is he going to say now? And how hot is this topic going to be? The reason why I'm bringing up the tariffs is because I'm in the Bahamas, and if you want a different perspective on what tariffs, how it's going to affect other countries, you're going to hear mine. If you don't care about how tariffs are going to affect other countries, then you don't need to hear mine. You can just be consumed by yours and all the other lies that are out there, media wise. The truth is, the tariffs are going to affect nations that are already struggling just to get by, to try to create about income for themselves, that they can take care of the expansion of their countries, the infrastructures that they're building, like the Bahamas, where I'm from. We're building a lot of new infrastructure that costs a lot of dollars. To build new infrastructure costs dollars. That's dollars. And regardless of what you think of it, it costs dollars, which means that when there's an increase in costs to get certain things out of the country, or to bring, you know, yeah, get certain products out of countries for business persons. What happens is that um, you have a lot of persons who would have been doing pretty well, that were just newly established within the next 5 years, or I wouldn't say 10 years, because those persons who would have been around for 10 years, they should be all right. They should be right. They should have known that there would be seasons of where there would be some sort of fluctuation. And if they needed to probably reach out to the banks to restructure their companies or something like that, so that they can offset this, they need to know that this is probably going to be around for the next 3 to 5 years, where this is going to be the king. Regardless of whatever is going to happen, the fact is some things will probably stick around for a few more years. Um, which is going to affect how people spend their money, where people are going to travel to, where they're going to take their trips. Are they going to come to the Bahamas? I mean, you're going to have tourists that decide that, well, we're probably not going to go to the Bahamas this year because of the tariffs, which means that things in the Bahamas are going to be a lot more expensive. We're probably not going to do that until the economies have things more figured out, when it's mellowed out. Not saying that the tariffs would go away, but that people will probably make less decisions to travel abroad while seasons are happening the way they are. But that doesn't mean that the number of tourists that comes to the Bahamas will be a decreased amount. It doesn't mean that. It could mean that more people are going to travel from different parts of the world to come to the Bahamas this year, which means our December month is probably going to be slam. We're probably going to have a lot more attractions in the Bahamas. We're probably going to have a lot more attraction in tourism because of the fact that these tariffs are being implemented in America. So people who typically would have wanted to travel to America would decide to say, well, since America is at tariff war with my country, I'm going to travel to the Bahamas this year. I'm just saying that's a thing. That's a percentage. I'm not saying that that's a popular thing, but what does those tariffs mean? I mean, is it going to be devastating to the world or something? I don't think so. I think if anything, tariffs challenge us to become better better citizens of our nations. I think that's what tariffs really does. It asks us to really build the infrastructures that can withstand the hardest of storms. And it also begs us to challenge where we stand on principle. I mean, are we building a nation for Bahamians, or are we building a nations for whatever other projects that we have going on? And because you will know at the end of the day, if those products and those companies that are foreign to the Bahamas are still exceeding, and Bahamians are suffering, it means that our energy and everything that we've built, all the infrastructure that we have here, was never meant for the Bahamians to solely survive and really thrive. Now, don't quote me or misquote what I'm saying. I'm saying that tariffs come in place as a byproduct of trying to strengthen infrastructure, home-based infrastructure. They're not a sense of alienation. So even though you have all these different weird reports and stuff like that, and people crying in the media and saying blah 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 blah, I think it's obscene. It's really obscene, because whatever a country does for their citizens is what a country does for their citizens. America is doing something for its citizens and believing that this is going to strengthen the American economy, and so then China's going to do this adverse thing and say, "Oh well, how could you? Don't you know who we are? We can do this for 100 years." And I'm like, "No, you can't. Let's just be realistic." Because just the other day, I want to say at least 5 years ago that I know of, I probably need to pull those reports for the next podcast, but I'm pretty sure 5 years ago or more, there was this discussion or disagreement between trading in America, and I mean there was this thing about food and stuff like that, and items that China was in desperate need of, and the U.S. became the largest exporter to China. And I don't know if it was beef or whatever it was. It was something. It was something, and we know. And that could be means that maybe there was some U.S. companies or different brandings of what, because there's such a pool of a population or a higher population of people that now live in China that are not originally from China, that want certain things, or ask for certain things. But that whole society that has this demand, if you're gonna put a tariff on that, that's gonna hurt those branches of companies that are in your own homeland. So for me, it's like it's like all the cultures are basically gonna really have their own culture food at restaurants now. The McDonald's in China might have a different set of fries when you go and you order fries in China. I'm just cracking jokes here, but realistically though, it just really forces you to present what your best is, as a nation. And so if people are looking in from the outside and saying this is crazy, this is going to cost the cost of living to go up even higher, it will only cost the cost of living to go up higher if businessmen and businesswomen, and our societies, our governments, societies, I talk about globally now, if they have failed in planning, like making sure that there are concessions and for items like, homegrown businesses. So why would I give a tax to a homegrown business when that's a homegrown business? So I want to make it easier for them to still be able to sell their products, and for their products still to be the most marketable products in the Bahamas. So homegrown business should be, um it should not be taxed in such a way, in the same way as this business that's, an export business that's bringing in stuff into the nation. So um there's a lot of discussion that can be had on this, and there's a lot of people who've been there, done that, and stuff like that. But I think it's a lie to look at the tariffs as this war that is this not necessarily. It is a boxing match, because whoever has the best tariffs, or who has the best plan for tariffs, which benefits their citizens, are the ones who are going to end up winning in the long run, and not the one who presents tariffs that are going to subjugate their citizens, and which means that their businesses that are exporting goods are going to be um, targeted so poorly, but that is going to alienate the new dollar value of what they have locally, or make it seem as if what they have is not locally. See, the U.S. has a robust market, so which means that if you have a market like the U.S., where it's just so many millions of people from all different states and cities and stuff like that, there is a likelihood that your market share of what is needed, especially with the online technology and selling on Amazon and all this other stuff, there's going to be a likeliness that the what you need, what you thought was unsellable in your backyard because your population is like 1,000 in your hometown, and you're not selling anything. You're not selling anything because you're not known in this other neck of the woods where there's a need for what you have to offer. And so you create a market with them and you say, hey, look, I would me even shipping would be free. Shipping would be on me. And I say, well, or let's go half and half on shipping. I'll cover that for the next year for all the goods that you order just because you're going to help me stay in business. and then maybe you have to go to the bank and say, look, for the next 3 years or 5 years, let me make sure I do something to make sure I'm set apart so that my expenses, at least my expenses, are covered for the next 3 to 4 years. I make sure all of that. And then after those 3 or 4 years, you could decide whether you had a profit or not, whether you were able to expand, and how are the tariffs going on at that point. But I would definitely say that going into the bank is probably not the most glamorous thing right now, especially with the tariff situation and the global uncertainty on how the dollar is going to look after this year. And I would say probably within the next year and a half. But I would find that very laughable if someone was to try to say that the U.S. dollar would decrease, because it won't. It just won't. I think the U.S. themselves would just stand alone would have the strongest market with a tariff scenario. And regardless of what is happening globally, all nations would be asked to step up to the playing field. And the fact that our prime minister just came online and shared a positive message, but it was also a very intimidating message, because one of those things he talked about was inflation. The inflation that was mentioned, which should devastate Bahamians. I think we're too close right now for there to be an inflation. I think we're desperately too close. I think we need to step away from that probably for another year and a half. I know that's going to be very hard and that's going to be very strenuous on the pockets, but if we have to step back, then we need to step back from certain industries and focus on other industries. But I think the market itself, both tourism and the other industries that are coming online in the Bahamas, will certainly take off. But we have to really step back from this inflation tidbit. The inflation tidbit will probably throw us off by another 25%. And the reason why I say that is because we might be looking positive on whatever these guys are saying, but like I've said that before, the positive. I've already did my research on this. The truth is, the aftershocks of a hurricane or any kind of destabilization globally still affects a smaller nation, especially a nation that is heavily dependent upon tourism. I didn't really want to spend a whole a whole 20 minutes talking about the subject of a tariffs, but um, and this is why we don't need to look back. This is why whenever we make a decision forward and we make a decision, we need to be able to make a decision, and we need to think at least what is going to mean for us in making a decision for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, and 25 years. We need to think about it in that standpoint when we make these decisions, and don't think about it in making decisions that are for us to make so that we can still have our businesses and we can still flow. We might have to step back from it just because economically, our industry will suffer shocks in a mighty way if we take on another inflation right now. I'm not saying an inflation is not imminent globally. I think just about every nation has a global inflation policy that's in place, whatever the case may be. Problem I'm saying is that that puts us about that we're still high above that span, we're still high about that 60% mark, GDP and stuff like that. And I still believe that we need to be below that. Like if we were at 50% um in how we spend money and whatever the case may be, then yeah. Because then you can have an inflation of 10%, and that wouldn't really disrupt much. We would still have enough to take care of the aftershocks. We would still be able to take care of our own infrastructure, and we won't be subjugated for, to be taken advantage of by some foreign agreement that puts us in a stalemate when something happens to the economy and they say, "Oh well, we can't follow through with this promise." Because we've gained a lot of promises and stuff like that over the years, and a lot of good relations over the years have been built. But I think right now the best thing that we can do as a nation is to prepare ourselves to teach better management skills, not just to our children, but also to young adults, to adults, and also to make sure that things are in place to protect our senior citizens. And right now, I don't see how that is really happening. The fact that a senior citizen of 87 years old goes to a hospital in the Bahamas for a checkup and gets a checkup. This is a checkup now, and they're all they're gonna do is get some prescription drugs. There's no surgery, there's nothing, and their bill from the hospital is $1,000. This is a senior citizen, 87-year-old senior citizen, a retiree. So my problem is like the Bahamas is definitely not thinking in those lines of what are we doing? Because if this is what the market is doing to senior citizens right now, in the Princess Market hospital, that means that you're stealing from the poor, or you're trying to create a disparity amongst the people who are trying to survive. And I'm not saying that there's not a way to subsidize that. There is a way to subsidize it, and there's a way whereas mm, Bahamian citizens should be paying a copay. The government should have a program where this is allowed for them to pay a copay, and that expense should definitely be covered. I mean, they've served their country. They're here. They're still around, and some of them are still paying a light bill. Some of them are still paying a water bill. Some of them don't have maybe kids or whatever the case may be, and they're doing it alone, and it's only them and their neighbors that are helping out. Some of them can't really get up there and cut the grass, so they still have to hire somebody, pay somebody to come there and cut the grass for them. And then sometimes you have good Samaritans that do this work for citizens in the Bahamas. But I don't think we're considering that. I mean, we're watching all this Blue Origin stuff. I mean, yes, it's great because it happened. The Bahamas in outer space, yes, it happened, but it was not really outer space. It was actually at the barrier space. So they crossed the barrier, which is nice, or they got to the barrier, which is nice, which allowed for them to be seen in such a way and stuff like that. But and I think it needs some applause, definitely for sure. It needs some applause, and especially for Aisha Bo. I think what she's done and trying to do for the Bahamas in every way has been a big major blessing. I think her story should not be limited to all the other stuff that's going on around her. I think she's still in a very peculiar position, in a position of light. And I think that position of light that she's exemplifying, I think is incredible. And I would be amiss if somebody tries to turn that into something else, because she's trying her best to do what she can for her, but in the same time, she's empowering many young women to think highly of themselves, to think very proactive of what they can do and accomplish in their careers. And I admire that for somebody who comes out of this country, representing this country, and stands firm in that. So I am very proud of what she's accomplished. And so you can have my word on that. Even though they just only had the barrier, even though it's at the barrier, it is like, some people are going to talk or whatever. But my focus on is on the Bahamian woman and what she stands for. She did something that was still deserving of praise. It's a barrier. And one of the barriers that needed to be broken down in our nation is that you thought the sky was the limit. She crossed that barrier. Sky where she went. And sky ain't the limit. Now it's like more of the universe. And then it maybe is what God has called you to do. And that's why I'm saying you can't look back. When you've gotten uh, a call on your life, and someone has called you to do something, it's not good to look back. There's so much stuff that's happening, and I just think about that. But I think that barrier being broken, it just sends a significance. And now she could come here and probably even start like create like some sort of not necessarily call it a space station, but almost like the Aisha Bow Park, in the Bahamas. You can create this Aisha Bow Park in the Bahamas, and it would just turn into something so significant. Because she talks about space travel, her journey as a young girl, what it was like, learning the things that she learned, her development. Um, but a lot of people are limited because of what they see, what they're scrolling at, what's in front of them. You know, I'm here to tell y'all that I spend my days as a believer, trusting that everything that happens on this God given green earth happens for a reason. A lot of us sometimes are intimidated to admit it. Sometimes we're very, I don't know, we're, we're, we're it's kind of premature of how we handle like when we're being challenged. Like something people will come right up to you and challenge you in your face. People you don't know, people you've never met, people who probably don't really care that you have the right answer. They're not looking for a right answer. They're looking for you to have a reaction that they can record. And once they have that recording of your reaction, they're going to use that and then they're going to plaster that somewhere else where their view. And sometimes it's it's race baiting, it's clickbaiting, it's rage baiting. It's like being stuck in traffic and you're trying to get to your destination, and this little space pops open in front of you and you're just about to pull forward, and then this vehicle just jabs right in front of you. It and you're already late. And then the vehicle behind you is blowing their horn because they could see the vehicle in front of you moving forward, and then but they can't necessarily see that one vehicle that's crossing over, trying to get in front of you. It is creating this. Now you're stuck in the middle of all this. This vehicle's getting in front of you. Then they get in front of you. They won't blow their horn to say thank you. Um, and then they get in front of you. Traffic starts loosening up and they're driving slow. So you're getting now to go and pass them or whatever, and whatever lane you're deciding to get over to pass them, they decide they're going to choose the lane that you get into as well. And so you're trying to get back in the lane that you get over, and next thing you know, it's like this roller coaster ride where maybe this person is just they just decided that they're going to try to bully you on a highway to tell you that you need to go slower than they are. So and then it turns into a major car accident or it turns into a major scuffle. And if you're in Texas, which and I assume that everybody's toting a gun in Texas, I would not want to be that person. I definitely would not want to be that person because you really don't see stuff. Road rage in Texas, I don't know. I just don't think that's certain states in America, I just don't think road rage is allowed. I just don't think it's wise to have road rage in those places. Um but I'm getting off topic now. We were talking about Bahamas in space. But I thought that was a breakthrough. That was the first mission. The Bahamas made it, and even though like I said, it was just in the barrier. I still believe that it sends a high signal to say that still believe, still have faith, and don't lose courage, and just keep on going on. And not only that, it was also a global thing too. Like everybody that watches the news or watches stuff like that would have seen this, so it made us even much more marketable to the world. And I know I know the way that society is marketing women is are marketing women in such a way. But if Aisha Bo wanted to run for prime minister of the country, could be a possibility if she wanted to do that. But we'll have to see where our political views run from there. Um, but whatever she decides in her future, I pray that the Lord leads her, and I just hope that the toxicity and all the other stuff that comes around with it um, doesn't reach her, because we know how that can be. I mean, they choose who they choose for a reason, and we just hope that her light does not get shunned or sucked away by the cruelty of the world, because this world can be very cruel, and then it also could cause you to sign on to things that you shouldn't. Um, and there's a lot of people that are doing a lot of positive things out there in the world that don't believe in God. So I always want to know, like, what's next? What's another thing that's on the agenda, and for us as a nation, now that putting so much energy towards certain things. My things is like stuff like that. The Bahamas should be sponsoring, should be endorsing, or writing checks towards, like the fact that she would have a hashtag or something like that that she could show in outer space and with Bahamas flag. I think is awesome because you want to you want to endorse that, and you want to put money value behind it to show some sort of appreciation. I mean, not that it's necessary, but I'm saying you want to, so that there are people that are capable of promoting the Bahamas in a way beyond a prime minister ever can, in a positive light, because the prime minister's seat is still a political seat, but there are people who can promote the country influentially and globally, in a positive light, and bring about not just tourism, but bring about partners that want to, people who might want to move here, because we're going to end up having Americans who want to move to Bahamas, who are going to live here. We're going to have markets for persons who are around the world who are going to want to move to the Bahamas and have housing here, because they're going to learn that the trade-offs of living in the Bahamas is still better than anywhere else, even though, and that's probably why if you look at the cost of living, that's one thing. But when you look at the economy and the location where we are, it's still perfect. It's like one of the best places to live in the world. And outside of Nassau with the crimes, like if Nassau didn't have the amount of crimes that are going on, like, handgun crimes and stabbing crimes and stuff like that. And these kind of things are happening in Nassau. If those things were not such a constant strain or worry in Nassau, a lot of people would a lot of other islanders would be looking forward to moving to Nassau. And but what's happening now is that a lot more of the development of the Keys and islands are now having a larger marketability than Nassau. And I'm saying that because where I'm from, when there was COVID, we still had an economy. Things were still constantly moving here. Groceries were still moving here. So, the only thing that's what happening was that, when the government decided that they wanted to shut things down, they decided to shut down here, out of safety. But then when they shut down here, then the whole Bahamas started to be very affected by the fact that there was no dollars coming in, because we were really the I would say the largest when it came to dollars moving into the Bahamas, one of the largest locations for the dollars moving in the Bahamas outside of Nassau, and stomping grounds was feeding. The economy was moving here. It was nonstop when everywhere else was shut down and people couldn't operate and do stuff like that. There was no issues going on here, and until we had cases, then that's what happened with us. But beyond that, things were moving smoothly. But the sad thing is that it just shows that that is maybe that happens the way too for our protection, and also a lot of the second homeowners that live here, maybe also for their protection as well. And I think people are nervous about expanding, or this island expanding so much that it would become like another Nassau or another Freeport or something like that. And I'm like, no, it just we need to have certain things develop on this island so that the infrastructure that are in place allows for our generations, if we want to have children and stuff like that, that they should have a home and they should be able to look forward to a home, and not the fact that they come here 1 year or 1 year and then just be the American island, almost like our tech is in Andros, and that's how I feel, as if like if we are, like just be another sold out portion of the Bahamas or something like that. And that's it's one of my deepest fears. But I'm thankful. I'm going into this project with the school project. A lot of stuff that's coming up, a lot of things that are coming up. But I wanted to say this before I go, that if you need encouragement and you're watching this, looking for me to drop this nice sweet nugget of encouragement to you, here it is. If God asks you to do something, do it. Don't don't take it for granted. If He asks you to release an album, release that album. May seem like there's no way to release that album, and it's you're putting it in the hands of another or something like that. But if He's asked you to do it, do it. Do it with all of your might and strength, and pray that He'll do the rest. And if you don't believe in God and you're, agnostic, you're not really sure what you believe in, um, ask God to reveal Himself to you, to show you who He truly is, and ask Him to come into your life. If you're willing to accept who He is, He will come. He'll sit with you and reveal Himself. And you can pick up the Bible. If you don't own a Bible, you can go online and look up scripture. You can Google it, learn about the Jesus story. If you have Prime, if you have other access, if you don't have a Bible, you don't have no way to Bible, maybe find a local church that is in your neighborhood, and walk in and try to find out who the person is in leadership and ask him more about Jesus. Have some questions prepared, what was confusing you, and whatever is causing you to have this delayment in your belief. And if you're an atheist and you don't believe in anything, but you're looking for hope and you're looking for guidance on trying to live a life that is a positive life and one with less stress in it, I will tell you that ultimately it's because of atheism that that's where you are. I mean, ultimately, not having a belief in anything, it will have you living a very empty life. It's empty in a way because then everything is just a molecule or based upon a science or like some possibility or physics, or it has an answer. And if you believe in physics, then you have to almost honestly believe in God. So, which means that you believe in something, um, because there's a higher rule, and the higher rule is that we were all created from something and not nothing. So my encouragement to all of you, everyone that's watching this, is this: that just do your best. Try to be not just a good citizen in your nation and doing good things, but try to be a good neighbor. Do your best to go out there and care for one another, to not target each other in a way to cause harm or dismay, but to show love, show character, show good promise, and be not just kind, but be proactively kind. Like we don't know how long we're going to be a part of this world. Um, and we don't know when the wars are going to come closer to our doorsteps. I'm sure, like back in the day in World War I, um, my great great grand uncle probably didn't realize that he would have been in that war. In World War II, it's like, that's took so many lives, and a lot of people who don't know anything about these wars and what happened in these wars and how these wars would have occurred and stuff like that. my my statement is that no one knew when these wars would have ended up on their doorsteps. No one knew when. They knew there was a possibility of it coming and it escalating when it would be asked upon to, but now that we have like nuclear warheads and stuff like that, nobody really wants a war like that. But there there are people who are prepared for it. I know the US is prepared for a nuclear war. I mean, and I'm talking about stability wise of how many people will survive a nuclear war. Um against any nation, and I mean seriously, that the nuclear war bases are so far on the ground that they are impenetrable. So um that's a that's a touchy subject. It's a very touchy subject, but uh everyone who's ever played God has learned the hard way of devastation because they have to walk away with the devastation that their hands have caused. So every time you try to play God and you get to walk away, you are counted with those costs. Hitler took out the car. He was the most cowardice because he went and committed suicide. He didn't. He never. He never paid for his crimes. He never paid for his crimes. So I mean, I think it's like a lot of people are committing these weird things, saying out of whatever, and they believe this to be true and stuff like that. And I'm like, I hate to see people saying that they believe in God, and then they're trying to assassinate somebody or protesting and then saying the stuff that they're saying. Because for me, it's like maybe you don't believe in God because you're still trying to fight a battle that you're saying is the Lord's. If it's the Lord's, then why are you fighting this? Why are you fighting this battle if it's truly the Lord's? And so, but so what's next for me? I'm gonna I'm gonna release the music and the sound that the Lord asked me to release. I'm gonna pour it out, and I'm glad that all the AI spoofs and spammers disappeared. God, thank you so much for that. This is why I truly believe in God. I knew it was gonna be whatever it was gonna be in the beginning, and I just stood firm. And I'm never bothered. I'm used to it now. That people will try to do whatever they can do to spam you and share nonsense to you. Um, but just want to say that Jesus Christ is my Savior. I'm a disciple of Jesus Christ. I believe in the gospel of Jesus Christ. I've shared everything I can share in my books. And if you want to learn more about me, read my books. My books tell you my story. They tell you how I started. They tell you where I'm at, what I've been through, what I've faced. My my story is also still being written. I'm still rebuilding and I'm still journeying. I'm still making steps to move forward in my life. And every one of us have a purpose that we can live. Everyone has a purpose, and we all have personalities for sure. But we need to take advantage of the purpose that we have and that God's given us. And I'm excited to live this purpose. So I'm looking forward to new music being released and when that's going to be released. And I'm actually excited and stoked that I get to do this with you. I get to talk about Aisha Bo going into space. She further than I've ever been. So I think is awesome. Like I mean, for anyone who tries to say something like insignificant about what she has accomplished, shame on you. Really shame on you. But for all the persons who who really loved what they saw. I hope you keep encouraging her to still continue to be a light, because it's once you get into those spaces, like I say, it's very unique, and then everything starts going, very foggy, because now, the high society and elite society life teaches you that now you can't say this, you can't say that, you can't say this, you can't say that. And I don't want to be one of those persons to join that society, even the ones that's so profoundly Christian, that they can't even tell themselves different from Christianity. And I mean, than the world, because if you look at the Christian music industry right now, I can't tell the difference between who's Christian and who's actually a secular artist. I'm telling you this right now. Like, if you watch half of the stuff, and I mean, outside of the other artists that that we know are truly living the life, like, and but we still don't truly know, because it's not like we live in their households. We don't know if they're couple fighting or whatever the case may be. They don't come right out and tell us what their sins are or what their struggles are. Maybe sometimes, but the ones who are truly living that life, you can almost sense it. Like, the Holy Spirit gives you this spirit of discernment that you can sense it. But the ones who are truly not, I mean, everything that they do is based upon a scroll. Everything they do is based upon how you like my posts. Do you love my posts, or whatever the case may be? Everything that they do is based upon how many things that they've accomplished. Me, I write my books. My books are not written for me to be like, I've written 12 books. Look at me. I've gotten my 12 books done. And I know an artist that has mentioned that, and I don't know if she was mentioning that as a pun to me, um, because I can handle it. I don't know if she was mentioning it as a pun to me because I can handle it, but she did mention it in one of her speaking engagement, and I heard it. And I thought about that, and I was like, God, I'm thanking you, because I never desired to ever release the book. I never even desired to release any of those, because a lot of those stuff was journals for me. Um, and God just pressed it upon my heart when they say, King, I've given you these pages so that you can be a light to somebody else that could be going through. And not expecting for you to say, hey, live the way I live. No, but for them to say, live postured the way God wants you to live postured. Um, and I believe that's how all of my books have been, and also to reveal truth, to shut down just random sayings and things that are foolishness to me. Like, people who believe inflation is good. It's not. Inflation is not good. It's not even remotely good. It's not even something that you try to, even though you try to do it just to buff up the markets, to put more cash in the grounds and stuff like that. But it's not even, nothing about it is healthy for a nation. It's not remotely good, and that's not what you're doing when you're putting out your best work, and and putting out your mistakes as well. Because my beginnings in my writings, there were probably some grammatical stuff in them, or some um just the way that I wrote, and the way that I write to still to this day, it's still unique in a way, because people can always tell it's me who's writing because of the way that my speech is, and I always try to make sure that that particular speech is in my writing. And but when you look at what people need in their cares and their concerns, you realize you're writing all these stuff in these pages and these journals, and they're just sitting collecting dust and doing nothing. Were they just for you, or were these books, these are for generations after you, or these are ways to pave the way? Like, I imagine, like, just so many of those law school journals of countless students who were being abused by their professors, or constant law school journals that have evidence of where there were shortfalls in the educational system, that these journals probably, they're not even, if anything, they're not even pulled from or looked at. until these guys leave. I mean, there's no nothing. It's but it's all protected data. But the point I'm making is that you can do more good by revealing your story. And a lot of people feel as if like their stories are not good enough because I'm not saying you should write a book. I'm not talking about that. I'm not saying you should make a movie. But if that's your story and yours turned into a movie, great. I know Aisha Bo's story may not turn into a movie because it just sounds like a fairy tale, but you don't know what hardships she's visited. You don't know what her walk had to be. You don't know what she's met far as racism. You don't know what she's met far as whatever. And it's so crazy that we're still at this pinnacle in society and we've learned nothing from just being humans. Like we're all human beings. We're all a part of one race and we're still doing things alienating one another based upon skin color, based upon um, a flag that we bear. And I think the more we're getting, the fact that you have an autonomous AI robots now that Tesla has created, and they call it the Elon Musk bot. Um, the fact that these engineered entities are called autonomous, that's their name. It's autonomous for a reason. So if they can develop this unique thing and they make it so one gen, you know, it's one generation, one or as identified as a race, it's autonomous. Uh, you know, and then you look at the human race, and then we got to put us all in different categories. We keep on putting each other in different categories, but yet we have these other things that are serving us, and we don't put them in categories. But then we're gonna put this in let's put this in a category. Let's let's put South Africa in a category. Let's talk about all the white farmers that are dying or have been murdered. But let's don't talk about the black farmers that have died and been murdered. Let's not talk about that because that's the past. Let's don't bring up the past. Let's don't do that. Let's talk about what's in now. Let's talk about what's in. That's genocide. But what happened? I mean, what happened is the past. Let's not talk about. We're not talking about the past. We're talking about what's happening now. It's for me. It's like you haven't gotten it right in the past. Now you want to talk about it, but you're still doing the same thing when you're talking about it. Because now you're still trying to make it seem as if a generation of people are dying out or something like that. And this other nation of people are becoming a threat. And if you are saying that as a selling point, I don't I don't believe any nation globally eventually will stand in agreement after if that selling point ever comes across the statement as if this is what you're seeking to do globally. And I don't think that's what's happening. I think what's happening right now is just that people who are seeking to do that, which is the devil himself, the devil is seeking to try to divide us and separate us and keep us from loving each other, are it's going to be a constant it's going to be this constant thing where we're always facing. So my encouragement to you who came on, all you guys who came on, is love on your neighbors. Be good friends to your neighbors. Be kind to your neighbors. You know, there's too much stuff happening in the world for us not to be kind to one another. Um, and then give life, give it your best shot. Go out there and do your best, whatever it is. Give life your best shot, and I guarantee you something will happen. Maybe not happen like right away, but something will happen. Some people will probably come and say a job well done, or nobody will ever say that to you. Nobody will ever give you praise or anything like that. But what I'm hoping is that um, we won't be looking at as a Bahamas nation, we won't be looking at America and be like, "Oh, America, y'all didn't do this, y'all didn't do that." No, no, no. I mean, or we wouldn't be looking at um, um, our nation as if like it's the end of the road or something like that. I mean, I think what we need to do, we need to really put our best foot forward. We really need to put our best foot forward. I think our as a nations and nations around the world, and realize that because we're all a part of the human race, that we all need each other to survive. And because we all need each other to survive, that we need to create policies that allow each nation to have some sort of benefit that is connected to us, as well as us having a benefit being connected to them. And making sure that's not only reciprocal, but it's also long term, um, something that we can pass down to generation to show the health and how we bear good, healthy relationships. And I think if that's the grounds of why all this stuff is happening now and rebuilding that bond and rebuilding what that means, then we still have to be careful because that also means that the Antichrist has his way in with some of these systems as well. So we have to be careful because, he's not coming in as everybody trying to label Trump as the Antichrist or whatever the case may be. I think that's just pathetic. Because the Antichrist is someone that's going to be loved. He's the light. He is going to be the light of the world. Like that's the Antichrist. I mean, and people who keep on trying to label Trump as if that's what he is, I think it's idiotic because he's not Trump is not loved around the world. It's ridiculous to assume that he's loved around all. He's loved, but it's not loved around the world. But the Antichrist is somebody that is actually going to be loved around the world, praised around the world, worship around the world. And anyone who actually comes close or was closest to that before all of his companies started getting lit on fire is probably Elon Musk. But to label him as that, I think it's pretty harsh and premature and immature too. I think we have to actually know facts and know Bible history and learn about a lot of things. But influence and connection doesn't necessarily means that there's no influence and connection. But we do have to kind of like place things where they are. The truth is, none of us knows. And the truth is, Scripture says that many would be deceived. Many. It didn't say that few would be deceived. It said many. So this is a global deception. You know what I mean? So it ain't about how we, whatever the case may be. Sometimes we're given a cure before we're given the bill. You get the cure first. Oh, I'm cured. Now the bill is $1 billion. The rest of your life, you got to pay this bill off. So and I think that's how the Antichrist is going to move. He's going to move in a way of whereas we're going to be indebted to him forever. So the only people who are going to survive this and probably make it out in peace and be protected are going to be the people of God. And so when I write this book, don't look back. I'm writing the book saying that, look, whatever you need to let go of your past right now, you need to let it go. Um, and if there is a relationship, a profound relationship um, but if God had desired you to be connected to somebody, I mean, regardless of who that is, He's still going to bring that person back into your life. I've learned that the harsh way. It's a harsh reality. That's one of the harshest realities that you could ever get. Like if God has somebody purpose in your life where that person is going to be your wife, that's going to be your husband or whoever, um, that the way He brings that person back into your life, sometimes it's like cruel, bro. Like you wondering why you're still single, like me. Like I'm wondering why I'm still single. You wonder why you're still single because God is protecting that so that your wife meets you, and so that, and you meet her, and y'all are positioned to where you're positioned, according to His will and His testament for your life, but not in the sense that, and He's keeping you, and you're wondering why He's keeping you for so long, but that's how loved that you are, and He just wants that much more time with you, because He knows once you get in a relationship, that's going to be a relationship between you and your wife, and then your worship goes up to Him as well. But He knows how some relationships can be very distracting from that, and and sometimes we label those relationships as relationships we worship. Um, so there's a lot of infractions, a lot of people who are doing life and saying that they're believers, um, and a lot of people who are believers and they're struggling to do life. Um, and I wrote the book to encourage them. I wrote the book to encourage you, and I put it out there. And I know it could be very harsh, but it's not harsh in a way to take away from people I love. But I wrote the book so that someone would be encouraged, um, and not discouraged, but be encouraged, not discouraged, not feel like they're setting up or whatever the case may be. But if God took you away from something, He's gonna put the fire in your step so that you don't ever go back. Sorry, I moved the phone. um, all right, this was super long. I usually don't be out here this long. With the live, I try to do the audio stuff, but usually not on here this long. I wanted to say shout out to everybody who came on here. Um, um, so a lot of things that I try to do is that just have to be very careful too for persons who do stuff online, just to be very private about what you're doing and your information, because some people will come on and try to create a fake account or something like that and say it's yours or whatever, or take your video content and try to create you saying something. Um, and The deep fake stuff is, wow. I mean, it's ridiculous. But the deep fake stuff is now, it's at a level, a higher level than it ever was, or ever intended to be. But I hope that whoever needed to hear some of this stuff knows some of this stuff. I'm proud to be in the Bahamas at this time in my career because, um, but I know that God was doing stuff, and I was trying to ask God why He wanted me to be here and what was the need for me being here, and now I and now I know. And All that time I was saying, I was meant to this and then meant to that, and kept on wondering why, and then I now I know, and I think one of the biggest things is that when God tells you or shows you why you're here, it does it does kind of it does kind of hit hard too in the beginning, because then you feel the full weight of it. I felt the full weight of that. And when I felt that weight, I knew instantly that I didn't have to worry. Um, I spend so much time worrying about this, that, and this and that, and God said, just don't worry. Like, it's gonna be okay. No, don't worry about nothing. And I think the biggest thing for me right now is not worrying. It's just having an understanding of what it means to love God, um, and to not only love God, but to be to be to just be a better steward. And I think in this world, one of the hardest journeys that you're going to face in adulthood or young adulthood is being a good steward. And especially when you start doing a serious walk with God, and now you're on a mission for Christ, and on the mission, I think one of the most challenging paths that you be on, where you're going to get attacked from, is because of the whole systematic abuses of sin in our past, and or just things we just didn't know, or things we weren't taught, or it took us a while to get it, is being a good steward, because stewardship um, helps you when it comes to building healthy relationships with others. And so my encouragement is to, whenever you get sorted out financially, sorted out emotionally, healthy wise, or whatever the case may be, try to be a good steward of healthy emotions, healthy practices, in your finances, in your friendship, in your relationships, in all your dealings, because all of that adds up. It adds up because you know you go to the grave, you don't want no one to be like, oh, and this person lived and they owed the world. No, you want to be like that person that goes on and they say, this person the world owes a debt of gratitude. This world owes you a debt of gratitude. And but you probably won't want to hear that before you pass on. But I want to say this too. It's not easy to think about all the other stuff that's happening, but um, there's so much stuff that we may not live to see. But I know one thing. I know one thing. The generation that's in right now, they're not focused. And I talk about a generation that's supporting all these agendas that are not making sense. People who support the homosexual agenda and stuff like that, and you're adopting children, and some mom who still be able to carry a baby or something like that. And I didn't want to say homosexual because that's the action, that's the behavior. So the gay, lesbian, and all the other agendas. So apologies for saying that earlier because someone had written in a comment, which was a very I thought that comment or question is very offensive to even a believer. It's very, very offensive. Um, I say that because because a lot of people are out there, or like I said, it's living life, and they believe what they're doing is right, and what I believe what I'm doing is also right. Um, but I think it's God who reveals to us what we're doing and the lifestyles that we're choosing is wrong. So we do have to seek God and pray that God would reveal Himself to them. But if that's a lifestyle they've chosen, it's not my decision to tell them, um, you know, that you have to choose this other lifestyle. That's not how it works. It's my choice and my freedom to tell them that what I believe, and I can be very vocal about that, or they can knowingly know that because of me professing my faith and me living a life that exemplifies what it means to live that in that way, in that nature. But it is tough. It is very tough because if you're not like me, that means that you don't have friends and people that you know that you went to college with, people that you used to go to church with, um, when you were living in Nassau, that have chosen these lifestyle, and some of them have gotten married, and some of them have adopted a kid, or some of them have actually birthed a kid into this world, into those relationships that they have. So now, the generation that they're raising and they're bringing up is a generation that doesn't see a difference. So they don't know the difference of what's natural, what's unnatural at all. Nor the fact that if that group of people probably would not survive 100 years if they all moved to if there was a planet, or let's say a continent that that's where all people who lived, the LGBTQ trans um, community decided, or a non-binary community decided to all go and live, there's a likelihood that that generation of people would have to do natural things in order to survive, in order for their generation to multiply, because within 100 years, the generation would cease if they decided that they would not participate in natural forms of procreation. So I think it's very irrational for me to have a conversation with somebody who doesn't see that. Um, and they said that, oh no, this is a way. This is a choice. Yes, life is a choice and life is a way. And doesn't mean that God loves you any less, or that it makes it hard for him to love you. But he has chosen, his people, and he did make it very plain and did give us bylaws. So if we're not standing according to those bylaws, then it means that he loves us any less. But someone can love you and still punish you for doing wrong. So I always I always believe that people always misinterpret the part of receiving punishment or receiving the reward for doing or making the choices that we make. There are rewards for making the choices that we make. And unfortunately, even if I make a mistake in my life, there are rewards for that. There are consequences to every action that we do. And there are people I love and I care about that have made those choices, but I still want them to have God's love and protection. And that makes it hard for for me and a lot of people to see eye to eye on this subject. But that is one of the things where I feel as if like we just do have to stand still and just trust on God. But just leave this with you guys. I'm hoping that I'm probably gonna drop. I'm not sure when I'm gonna drop the album, but hopefully soon I'll do something. Um, I know a lot of you guys wanted to see me in the studio doing stuff or whatever the case would be, but it's not like that. But my prayer is that whatever God wants to do in my community where I live, that He'll do it. And to my American friends who keep on asking me when I'm coming back to the United States of America, oh, it's up to the U.S. government at this point. I mean, it's not like I haven't tried, but the fact that I was alienated a few times, it just made me feel just horrible. Like I did the right thing and returning home of my own free will, and the way I did it was right. There was nothing wrong about it. And I've also been back to the US even after that. It wasn't until I went to apply for a visa to travel because I needed it in order to connect flights to go and see a relative, and that did not go well. That did not go well for me. It just created this whole hoopla and all kind of stuff, and just made me look insane, like I was lying. Um, like I didn't have any evidence of whatever it was. And I never forgot that. I mean, that guy was, he was the epitome of what racism was, and that was the first time in a long time. You know, even when I lived in the U.S., I never experienced racism so consistently until I moved back to the Bahamas. So moving back to the Bahamas, it felt that explicitly from um, some embodiment, someone that represented the U.S. government and the U.S. embassy, and that was probably the most horrific experience I've ever experienced in my life. I mean, I had lawyers look into that thing, and I spoke to a corporation and stuff like that, and they did. I think they did kind of ease that intention, and they did give me a visa to travel to take my exam for the brokerage that I needed to take. Never did that because I was just like, this is how I'm gonna get it. All this time I was being honest and doing all this other stuff, and now that I'm living a lifestyle that I'm not even happy about living. It feels like I'm just faking this whole thing. I was just like, even though it was an opportunity, and then they made it clear that that was an opportunity that I didn't use it, so they revoked it and they made sure that I didn't get another one. So for all my U.S. friends who didn't know that that was going on, that's what's going on. I made a lot of sacrifices to stay for friendships in the U.S. for my American friends, and also for the relationships I were a part of. But yet those relationships damaged my relationship with the travel. Um, and those relationships haven't done anything to help me in recovering, to getting back to the U.S. And I'm not talking about like my like Pastor Shirley or anyone like that because they're always trying to like be very helpful, or the other persons like Keisha and all the other persons who would have tried. But I'm just talking about like a lot of people make sacrifices. So Bahamians who are being deported and stuff like that, and having to come back to the Bahamas and the stuff that they're going through and stuff like that, they're going to experience a level of alienation because and mistreatment because people still won't have a complete understanding to what opportunities they were giving up, or the situations that they were put in. And my situation was uniquely different. Liberty was aware when I was in the U.S. and to where I was in the U.S. and stuff like that. So my case officer was always aware of why I was there. So I think it was just kind of weird that everything happened the way it happened, and I was alienated the way I was alienated. So if you haven't seen me do a tour in the U.S., it's why. And but there's the rest of the world. So, but the way things are happening right now around the world, I think a lot of the stuff is going to happen on the streams and music. Am I still able to travel the U.S.? Who knows? Who knows? I would say U.S. will have to ask in order for me to travel there. I'm not gonna. I'm not interested in going and trying to take that leap, for any reason, just because I've already tried. And I would say that I think the relate what they hurt and what they how that situation went down. I think that targeted persons like me, because my last name is Charles and it's not typically a Bahamian last name because my dad is originally from Haiti and stuff like that. And so the way I was treated in the U.S. embassy was as if I was Haitian, like I was even from the Bahamas, because it was like, what has changed? And I was like, what status do I need to be changed? What status do I need to be changed? I've been a Bahamian all my life, regardless of what you're trying to implement here and try to seek from me. I've been a Bahamian all my life, and when I made that statement, I had I think there was like black case officers, and the Asian lady was asking me that question, and she still refused it. But I remember writing there, and somebody from the U.S. embassy wrote me saying that I should not be denied to enter, um, and because and they said that I don't have any record of whatever, but the fact that I was honest and just being truthful, they just shows you that being honest and truthful, the system, when you are honest and truthful to them. and you've already paid the cost for being honest and truthful, system still turns around and still hurts you because they want to make an example of somebody, and they choose whoever they choose. They don't care who it is and what lives they ruin when they're making an example. And then these added costs ends up hurting the country overall because that's now they want to talk about, oh, you talk about victimization, you're talking about this DEI stuff and whatever the case may be, but none of these things would be necessary if you didn't have representatives who who just was just horrible arbitrators of what the country represents, and horrible examples too. I mean, and these people who were supposed to be military experience and stuff like that, and some of them had PTSD and they're serving you, and that's the worst. Somebody with PTSD who's serving you thinking you're a target, or somebody who hates your guts, you don't even know that. They hate you. They don't even like you at all. And they're sitting there because they've been commissioned to sit there because they, had falling out in other locations. And so they're there and they're causing havoc, you know. And that's probably why a lot of relationships around the globe suffer. And so you always want to make sure that when you choose people for various roles, you choose the best people who are not only qualified, but also people who have a quality opinion of people, and not somebody who looks at me as just a race or a number, but look at me as a human being. And people who has that character and that care, they will be able to tell the truth from the lie anyways. And you have the whole lie detector information for that reason. You have the voice thing for that reason. But if people are nervous, someone is already nervous and you're trying to ask them questions, and you have them on a a voice recording system just to check whether they're lying. How you can tell if the person's already nervous from the get-go? They don't know if they're going to be have access or denied. And then U.S. Embassy for the longest time was like saying, "Oh well, it's up to the discretion of the officers." It wasn't up to the discretion of the officers, because if it was up to their discretion, they would always send me the back. So it just made it seem. And my mom was like, Kings is kind of pathetic as many as all the times that you've traveled back and forth to the U.S. From your childhood years to your teenage years, all the times that you've traveled around many places. She's just like said, this period in your life with the U.S. Um, was just kind of horrible that you have to go through that. And for me, it was like, well, God just had other plans. I was able to travel to other places around the world, and I realized that there were just way more beautiful places than going to the US. Because I was like, if that's going to happen to me to the US, I'm going to choose other places to go to the world. And my American friends are going to suffer from me not being there, or they're not, and they might see it as I'm saying I hate the US. No, I never said that. It's the US that's not granting me, the free reign to travel and stuff like that. Because, so many things I would have been doing, like, a lot of good, healthier relationships and companies and stuff like that, and business plans and businesses and stuff like that. I could have helped. Um, I was a good businessman when I was there, a good businessman when I'm here, and trying to do stuff, and build back my credit here, and do a lot of positive things here. But the point I'm making is that um, this is why you have to be a good steward in how you live, because people are only going to look at you. Only need to make one classification of a mistake, and a society of people will hold you to that mistake for the rest of your life. And that's basically the U.S. Embassy did. Basically, I mean, they held that as if I was the enemy. You know, I mean, I nearly wiped away just all of my 30s. So yeah, that was horrible. That was horrible. You know, 13 years. You know, and it wasn't really 13 years. It was, Yeah, it was 13 years. Yeah, because 2011, I still travel back and forth and stuff like that. It was no problem at all. But it was like I said, it was just sometimes people just don't care. They don't care what you do, what you say, how you do it. Their only plan is to to label you and keep you locked in and locked up and just you know this is always something weird that occurs. But my suggestion is always that if you continue to live right, yeah, things will get harder because you're living right, and there is a lot easier to do wrongs than to do right. But at least you can have this freedom about you, the way you move, when you travel, where you go, and stuff like that, and not have to worry and that not be on your radar, or have this like you have to look over your shoulder like somebody's coming after you. Like that's the kind of life you ought to live, and that's how I've been living my life ever since. So um, no worry. And so somebody shows up to my door, I know what they're showing up for. So I won't be surprised. So people who have this worry and concern and all this other hoopla, I'm not concerned about that. But I've realized one thing, and one thing I realized for sure, that um, your success is not dependent upon which nations accept you. It is not. It's not dependent upon what visas you have. It's not dependent on how many fans you have on YouTube. And it's not dependent upon how well your name is known. Your success is dependent upon you truly living purpose. So I bid you to go out there and live your purpose, because for whatever that means, it means maybe having the best restaurant that you can ever have on a small island somewhere, and it always appeals to the people that it needs to appeal to. That you never run out of food. That you always constantly have the right amount of cash to pay bills, the right amount of cash to still put food on your table, the right amount of cash to still be able to provide for your family and put gas in your car. That is always, even if it's more than enough, or it's just enough. It's enough. And you realize that your needs are fulfilled. And needs being fulfilled, most people most people don't even know what that means this day. You know what it is to have all your needs being fulfilled? That means a good life. That's wealth. That's purpose living. So I bid you a lifestyle like that, and encourage you to keep pursuing purpose and never give up. And thank you again for sticking around for this long. And so if you watch this is just me catching up. I'll probably do another one of these again, and then I get back to the business of sitting down and doing stuff like that. But this is me giving a shout out to everybody who's hung out with me, and I just love hanging out with you guys. It was a good day to be on here again. I know some of you probably would not want to watch more than an hour worth of a live video. But I talk a lot about the Christian music industry, um, being a business and it being cruel. And sometimes you meet the love of your life, and your love of your life does wants you, but does not want you where you are. They want you, but they not want you the way you are, and it makes it very complicated. The relationship becomes, or the non-relationship becomes very complicated, because they have so many options in front of them, and most of them will probably choose those options. But when God has spoken into your life and their life, I think they know, and it's whether they decide that or not. But I think they know. Like for instance, I would say I know, and then again, I don't. So I just would say that and God blesses you with an opportunity, please don't ruin it. Don't send them like 1,000 notes that makes them feel uncomfortable and alienates that person. Um, that when you meet them for the first time, then they have a different view completely of who you are. They really know who, but then most people, you could get a name, you could get a telephone number, you can get an email address, but doesn't necessarily means you know anybody. Um, and try to keep your word. If you said you're going to do something, honor that word as much as you possibly can. Um, and I know a lot of persons tend to have like the craziest schedules where they get booked up and they, and stuff like that. I know if you get on to CSAC or these other entities and stuff like that, sometimes you're doing these gigs and you don't even know what these gigs are all for. You don't know even know what you're, you might best be doing these stuff and they just wanted an artist so that they could appeal to a certain audience of believers, but they could be selling something that's satanic. And so this is sometimes where you really do need good management and good healthy management. Um, so I think that's probably where I come in. And the person I met, they were looking for guidance, and they were actually looking for somebody who understood the music industry. And I probably would have been the best person for them. Um, but God just has other ways of providing more people. Um, and I say the best person just because um, I'm not lukewarm when it comes to that. I really believe in having faith and trusting God, and then also I understand how to read contracts. I do know what it means to read contracts, what to write them, and stuff like that. I used to do them for the band. I used to basically had to you do all the stuff and all the details and stuff like that for major bands and acts and stuff like that. So and our setup and what we needed, what we required, and all this other stuff. And so I know what a technical writer is and all this other stuff. But against all of that, one of the things that came to understand is that it's truly a business, and we have a lot of artists who are in the field now coming forward and saying it's a business. And so my best encouragement is for them to stay independent. If you're an independent artist right now and you're trying to learn more about the business, the best thing for you to do is stay independent. Until you really get a full grasp on who you would like to be signed to or something like that. But my encouragement to you is to stay independent. Like don't make a decision to go big or to get signed to any label just as yet, because the likeliness that you would be able to still meet your audience with all the stuff that's there, Spotify, TuneCore, all these other tools that you can use to get your music out there, Apple Music, local radio stations, sell your music in local stores that might still sell cities or whatever the case may be. However you do it, the thing is, you can earn enough to still be able to publish your music, get your music out there, and still meet an audience that you might never ever get to perform in front of, but an audience that love your music that will be willing to travel to come see you perform. And you can create that. And you can create that over time. And it's not going to happen overnight. But you can keep on building and just staying true to your art and being very creative. And when you say you're going to do something, do it. I know a lot was going on for me, so we weren't able to drop singles every month as if I intended to. And then not not every studio moves just not every studio can move the way that they move, because a lot of studios require a lot more money, and stuff like that. And I'm realizing that somebody that could release an album that cost them $5,000 to make back in the day. I mean, hearing Lecrae talking about one of the stuff that he started with and how that was a blessing, and it was borrowed, but it was still a blessing in a way. Um, the the root of what of things that people are trying to educate now is that most of that stuff was done. Most people, when they went and they did these things, we did these things without the knowledge of knowing what it means to actually have the equipment, what it means to actually have the studio space, what it means to actually know how to use and engineer these things so that we can actually make it happen, and what it means to us to invite friends in who had skill sets that develop over time, and we build these things and we experiment together, and then we create things that are fabulous and catchy for us, and we make it a thing because it's cool to us and we're so excited about it. That excitement transfers over to a whole audience that was like, "Whoa, I never know you guys could do this stuff. I think this is cool, and I'm here for the hype." And it just turns into that. And it was not just collective fun, but it was collective ministry because it's now all of us are fellowshipping and we're doing something that we really love and we cherish. And it's not something that we decided to do as a hobby, but it's something that where we have gifts and talents in, and we're using those gifts and talents. Now those gifts and talents are being multiplied through monetary gains and stuff like that. But that's what they should do. Because if you bury a gift and you bury a talent that you've been given, this is something that you've been given. A talent, a gift, these are things that you're birthed with or you're given. Um, and if you bury that, uh, it could be it could be taken away. And you could technically lose your life. Because sometimes some talents and gifts that are a part of us are there to be our tools to keep us grounded and also to keep us together too in our faith, and also keep us connected to our societies in a way, and help us with other people, and for us to be a help to other people. So yeah, I definitely believe you have to use your gifts and talents to the fullest, and they will bring room into your life, and not the way that you always think. It doesn't always have to be monetary, but it can be ministry in a very profound way. So we just have to keep on. We just have to keep on um, staying true to who we are, and asking God to guide us and protect us, guide us and protect us, and yeah, that's all I got. So once again, shout out to everybody who came on for this Love and Worship podcast episode live. And I gave away no secrets about what I'm building, but I just want to say I appreciate you guys. I do not appreciate the false accounts, the random AI accounts that popped on here, but I do appreciate all of the real humans that are out there that are actually of a human heart, and not the fake accounts that just popped in and all of a sudden they just disappeared in 1 second. Um, I just appreciate you guys, and guys, just stay stay alive out there. Stay safe wherever you are. Um, Pray for your countrymen. Pray for your leaders. Cover your leaders. And pray for your priests in your nations. You got to pray for them because those are people that you hope would actually hear from God. So pray for them, and also pray for their families, cover their families. And when you guys are out there remembering families and remembering people you love, remember mine. I don't have any harsh stories about America or anything like that. The story about the whole embassy thing and stuff like that was with one person and not the entire U.S. embassy. So it doesn't represent America's standings because I have a healthy relationship with American friends and people who are also a part of American government. So it would be very very awkward for me to have this weird whatever. But I will do say that that is something that needs to get sorted out on their end. And then basically what Trump is doing right now probably might escalate situations sensitive to that. But I would also think to say that this is probably why some businesses have not been formed in America. That would be even best for America to expand. Because here's the thing, like if someone like me was there right now for those 12 or 13 years that they did whatever they did on blocking, there would not only been established jobs, because I mean that's just a framework that I have, businesses formed, but so many Americans would have had jobs, because that's the kind of person I am. I would have developed a job. I would have probably been, whatever I would have been leaving the corporation I would have built and stuff like that. And people are saying, oh, well, that's a hypothetical. No, I think that's pure facts. Because the opportunities in America are still greater than what the opportunities are in the Bahamas. However, because of that the intense nature of the Bahamas and how hard it is to actually develop a successful business in the climate, it means that someone like Bahamians move into a place like America to establish in businesses, successful businesses, would probably be 9 times more successful than just another business, random business that's out there. And I say that simply because we've had to we have more stringent conditions than there are in the US, and our market is not as vast. So for us to have a successful business here means that if we went to somewhere where we can expand and really, you know, do franchises and stuff like that, the success would be, well, definitely unlimited. Stuff like technology and software companies, and we think Starlink is the way forward right now. Cell phone companies and stuff like that. All these things would not only be possibilities, but these things would be realities. Just because our our infrastructures will not be limited to the conditions we have here. And the Bahamas is expanding now, so we're getting to a point. I mean, we basically have access to everything here, but at the same time, it's just I don't know if we have enough of it. So there's a possibility that I want to say I don't think we're 10 years behind. I think infrastructure wise, we're probably about 7 years away from establishing ourselves as probably the most sought after place, not only to do business but also to have geopolitical meetings and to have probably house every single country in the world, um, as far as meeting goes, um, and probably eventually probably be the best established ground for infrastructure, like places like Andros that's undeveloped, and a lot of the islands in the Bahamas are still vastly undeveloped and stuff like that. Those places would probably end up being sought after for development and for establishing not necessarily just new territory, but for new businesses to be infused into our culture, and not only establishing Bahamian jobs, but now a new culture that's not dependent upon tourism at all. And I think that's probably going to shift in the next 7 years. We're going to see that shift. God spare life, God willing, that no storms interrupt that, but you know, whatever God wants, He gets. So, and hopefully within the 7 years, they should be married with kids. I mean, whatever God purpose, but don't quote me on that. But anyways, blessings to you all. We'll catch you next time on the Love and Worship podcast. Grace, peace, and love. Peace. Oh, I'm supposed to end it, huh?